October 8, 1918. The Muzargon forest trembled with the rattle of machine guns. Branches snapped under the hail of bullets. A small American patrol of 17 men was caught in the crossfire, men falling one by one. Chaos reigned, shouts, screams, gunfire, and in the middle of it stood a quiet farmer from Tennessee, a man who had prayed never to hold a rifle. War. He never wanted blood. But in that moment, when his comrades lay dying and the mission teetered on disaster, Alvin York stepped forward. What he did next would shock even his enemies and turn a reluctant soldier into one of the most extraordinary heroes of World War I. Alvin Cullum York was born on December 13, 1887, in a small cabin in Pall Mall, Tennessee. The third of 11 children, Alvin's life was shaped by hardship. His family was poor, living off the land, raising crops, and hunting game. Alvin's father, William, taught him to shoot a rifle not for sport, but for survival. York quickly became one of the best marksmen in the valley, capable of felling a squirrel with a single shot between the eyes. But his early years were not marked by discipline or virtue. Alvin had a fiery temper. He drank heavily, gambled, and often found himself in brawls. Local townsfolk whispered about his reckless ways, calling him trouble. Yet beneath the roughness lay a heart searching for purpose. The turning point came in 1915, when Alvin attended a revival at his mother's urging. There, he felt a pull stronger than any fight or drink had ever given him. He joined the Church of Christ in Christian Union, swearing off alcohol and violence. From then on, Alvin lived by his faith. He read his Bible daily and embraced the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." This conviction would soon collide with the storm brewing across the Atlantic. In 1917, the United States entered World War I. York's world shifted when his draft notice arrived. He pleaded for exemption as a conscientious objector, arguing that his faith forbade killing. His appeal was denied. York reported for duty at Camp Gordon in Georgia. He trained with the 82nd Infantry Division. His skill with a rifle impressed the officers, but inside, he wrestled with guilt. Could he obey the law of man without betraying the law of God? After long talks with his commander and much prayer, Alvin reached a conclusion. War was evil, yes, but he believed God sometimes called men to fight in defense of others. With a heavy heart, he resolved to serve. By the fall of 1918, York's division was in France, thrust into the bloodiest American campaign of the war, the Meuse-Argonne offensive. The forest was dense, the ground soaked with mud and blood, and German machine guns dominated the ridges. On October 8th, York's unit received orders. Silence the German guns blocking the advance. A small detachment of 17 men, including York, moved out. They crept through ravines and underbrush until the Germans spotted them. The crack of rifles and the chatter of machine guns shattered the stillness. Bullets ripped through the patrol. 9 men fell within minutes. Their lieutenant was dead. Panic threatened to consume the survivors. Amid the chaos, York's faith, his years of hunting, his quiet resolve, all converged. He took command, though he wore no officer's bars. Alone he pressed forward. Machine guns blazed from a ridge. York dropped to his stomach, sighted his rifle, and began picking off gunners one by one. Each shot was precise, deliberate, like a hunter in the Tennessee woods. As German soldiers tried to flank him, York switched to his Colt pistol. Advancing steadily, he fired with deadly accuracy, dropping enemies as fast as they came. A German officer, stunned by York's skill, finally shouted for surrender. Dozens of enemy soldiers, first a handful, then more, laid down their arms. York ordered them to gather, keeping his rifle steady, his voice calm but commanding. By the time the firing ceased, Alvin York stood with only a handful of Americans, but over 90 Germans as prisoners. With his small patrol, York herded the prisoners back toward American lines. Along the way, more German soldiers surrendered, convinced they faced an entire American battalion. In truth, it was York and a handful of men. When they finally reached their unit, the stunned commanders counted the prisoners. 132 Germans captured, 35 machine guns silenced. The impossible had become real. For his actions, York was promoted to sergeant. He received the Medal of Honor, the Croix de Guerre from France, and international recognition. Headlines hailed him as America's greatest hero. But Alvin York himself struggled with the praise. He insisted he had only done what had to be done, that God had guided his actions, and that he had spared lives by forcing surrender instead of slaughter. York returned home to Tennessee in 1919. Though offered wealth and fame, he turned down most opportunities, believing they dishonored his faith. Instead, he married, raised children, and devoted his life to education and community service. He helped establish schools for poor children in the Tennessee mountains. He worked tirelessly for veterans and for causes larger than himself. Fame never changed him. He remained the humble farmer with a deep faith and a steady aim. In 1941, Hollywood released Sergeant York, a film celebrating his story, starring Gary Cooper. The movie inspired millions during World War II, reminding them that ordinary people can rise to extraordinary heights. Alvin York passed away in 1964, but his legacy lives on. Schools, roads, and monuments bear his name. His story remains a testament to faith, duty, and the power of one man's courage in the face of overwhelming odds. On that October day in 1918, Alvin York was not seeking glory. He was not looking for medals or headlines. He was simply a man caught between faith and duty, who chose to act when others could not. What he proved is timeless. Sometimes the greatest heroes are not those who want war, but those who, in its darkest hour, rise above it.